The Marlins go into Oracle Park and sweep the Giants. Bring out the brooms.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been podcasting about the Marlins for 4 seasons. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every single day. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I've been driving across the country. I finally got to my house in Phoenix. And as you can see, my studio is not set up yet, so bear with me. It's just a blank wall behind me, but we're going to talk some Marlins baseball. I didn't do an episode. Well, I had an episode yesterday, but that was before the Marlins game in which they won in thrilling fashion. So really, the last time Locked On Marlins was out was before the second game of this series. So we're going to break down that game, break down the game today. I got to listen to Jack McMullen and AJ Ramos, really great announcers call that one. The Marlins sweep the Giants. That's the biggest story right now. They are playing some really good baseball. The offense is humming. And I had a question via social media that I wanted to get to about the pitching staff. That's going to come up later in the show. Game 2. So Edward Cabrera versus Logan Webb. I told you guys, Logan Webb's a really good pitcher. And Edward Cabrera, this was a good test for him on the road. He looked awesome against the Phillies, his last start. We all know how that went. And, the umpire was running a really tight strike zone. There was a 1-3-2 pitch in particular. It was completely in the zone, and he called it a ball. That robbed Eddie of another strikeout, and it added a walk to his final line. But he pitched well. He pitched well. Edward Cabrera finishes the game with going 5 in the third, 3 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. He has a 2.24 ERA dating back to his last 8 starts. So really good stuff from Edward Cabrera. The Marlins and the Giants were tied 2-2 in this one up until the 8th. The Marlins, of course, were up 2-0. The Giants tie it up, or rather 2-1. Excuse me. The Marlins put up 2 unanswered runs after a leadoff homer by Mike Yastrzemski. But in the 8th inning, Heriberto Hernandez with a huge 2-run, 2-out RBI single. Or 2 RBI single on a pitch well outside the strike zone. He drove in 2 go-ahead runs, and at that point, it looked like he was going to be the hero, and the Marlins were going to win Game 2 and win this series. Well, Calvin Fauché comes in the game, and he's just all over the place. He loads the bases, the Giants tie it, and we go to extras. But in the bottom of the 9th, in that same inning, there were runners on 2nd and 3rd, and there's a base hit to the outfield. Kyle Stowers guns out the runner at home plate, and an excellent job by Nick Fortes collecting the throw, which came in from left field at 97 miles an hour, and then ranging all the way back to his right to get the out at home plate. It was a very athletic play by Fortes. It was a great throw by Kyle Stowers, and that saved the game. That's going to get brushed under the rug of, the Marlins winning this in extra innings because, as I'm going to tell you in a second, they poured it on offensively in the 10th inning, but that saved the game. That got the game to extras. And then in extra innings against the Giants closer, Camilo Doval, and the Giants bullpen is the best in baseball this season. I mean, they are far and away the best. Otto Lopez with an RBI single to make it 5-4. Of course, that placed runner on second base, but you always want to get more than just the placed runner. You want some insurance runs, and that's exactly what Heriberto Hernandez did. He doubled a line drive to the center fielder, and it scores 2 more. The Marlins are up 7-4. And at that point, you tack on 1 more with the sacrifice fly in which Heriberto Hernandez wins. The Giants tack on another run in the bottom of the 10th, but that's it. Heriberto Hernandez was the Locked On Marlins player of the game. He finished with 2 hits, a double, and 4 RBIs. Otto Lopez. How about Otto Lopez this series? A revenge series for Otto Lopez, who was waived by the Giants last year. Of course, that's when Peter Bendix came in, scooped him up, and the rest is history. Otto Lopez finished the game with 3 RBIs. Of course, the most important, that go-ahead RBI single in extra innings. And then in today's game, I mean, where do we even start? The Marlins win 12-5. It was just an offensive onslaught. I'm going to talk about that in the second segment, but I do want to talk a little bit more about Edward Cabrera because I don't think he's getting really the justice, the respect around the league that he's deserved. If you've listened to the show for a while, you know how doubtful and critical I've been of Edward Cabrera. Is this really Edward Cabrera, or is it just a mirage? Because we've seen glimpses in the past. He has tantalizing stuff. He has incredible stuff. It was just a matter of putting it all together. And we're 5 years into this experiment. We're now talking about an Edward Cabrera who's been consistently effective throughout all of May and throughout all of June. Like, whatever changes he's made mentally, physically, to really tap into his potential, it's worked. Like I said, a 2.24 ERA over his last 8 starts. There was a pitch against the Giants. He hit 100 miles an hour. I mean, Eddie throws hard. He'll throw 98, routinely 97, but 100? Yeah, that's rearing back and just letting it rip. What I really love about Edward Cabrera as well is the confidence that he's exuding on the mound. He got taken out of the game, and you could visually see on the television broadcast the frustration / competitiveness that this guy has. He knows he's pitching well. He wants to be out there. Just like in the Phillies game when McCullough took him out early, this Giants game, he feels like he can go out there and just continue the shove. And I love that. I love that for a starting pitcher who has been, just so under the spotlight of criticism. He never reached the ace potential that he has up until this point, because right now he's pitching like an ace. There's no other way to put it. It's absolutely incredible, the career turnaround that Cabrera is having. I'm all here for it. Of course, I wish it was sooner in his career because, with each and every start that goes by, I think the likelihood of Edward Cabrera finishing this season in a Marlins uniform is dropping. I think he's going to be a prime trade deadline target with multiple years of control and somebody that's put it all together, having a really good statistical season, and the stuff just jumps off the page. So credit to Edward Cabrera. Let's keep this thing going. I'm just so happy for him. I'm ecstatic. I think it's awesome. I remember him as a prospect, and I just thinking this guy is going to be, a really good pitcher, right up with Pablo Lopez, right up with Sandy Alcantara. And in the big 2025, he's put it all together. It's great. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about that game 3 in which the Marlins exploded offensively. They are humming right now. These guys are just tearing the cover off the ball. And it's something that needs to be talked about as the Marlins finished off the sweep. That's coming up right after this. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. If you're looking for a specific part or piece. They got a complete inventory, over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands. You're going to find exactly what you need, and they delivered fast and from coast to coast. There's no huge wait times. If you ever need help with an order, Supply House offers expert leading support and industry leading service. You'll always talk to a real person. There's not going to be any robots involved. It's just you and an expert, and they're going to help you find whatever you're looking for. And if you're a trade professional, or maybe you know a trade professional, a family member, a friend who's looking for that extra edge, why don't you explore the Trade Master program? It's free, and it offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, so now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. And also use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Thank you to all the Locked On Marlins everydayers out there. I appreciate you tuning in. Share the podcast with your friends. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube channel. And let's get into it. This game 3 for the Marlins win it 12-5. They win it going away. Early on, there was some drama. So in last night's game, going back to last night's game, Casey Schmidt, I believe is his name, gets hit with a pitch by Calvin Fauché in the 9th. Obviously unintentional. Why would we hit one of your guys in a crucial situation like that? But he throws his bat down. He's barking at Fauché, and I'm like, who do you think you are? I get you don't like to be hit, but be professional about it. Obviously, it was unintentional, and I don't want to hear it from any Giants fans. Like, there's no world in which that was an intentional hit by pitch. It's just not going to happen like that. So in the first inning, Hayden Birdsong's on the mound and throws right at Otto Lopez. Just hits him directly. It's a direct hit. The umpires come out. They're giving warnings. Clayton McCullough is like, what is going on here? Why are you giving us a warning? We didn't do anything. Why don't you eject Hayden Birdsong? They're like, that's on the umpires, number one. Birdsong, that's intentional. That's intentional. Birdsong stays in the game. McCullough gets tossed. He let the umpire hear it. Good on Clayton McCullough. Great job. Stick up for your guys. You can't let that happen. You can't let that happen. That's Bush League. All right, we didn't do anything. You can't do something to us like that. And, there was really no further retaliation, but I just think that was just BS all the way around. The Marlins, like, McCullough didn't deserve to get tossed, but it happened. And you know what? I'm fine with that, because what happened after, the team rallied. The team rallied together, and they said, enough of this garbage. We're taking matters into our own hands. Kyle Stowers, 3-run jack, just obliterated it. 440-plus home run. I mean, it was crushed. Augustin Ramirez, a 2-run bomb. Like, it was 5-0 Marlins right off the bat. Yeah, Stowers, 440. Augustin Ramirez, 443. Hit 110 miles an hour. Kyle Stowers, 110 miles an hour. These guys teed off on Hayden Birdsong. But just as soon as the Marlins had the lead, and you feel really good about it, up 5-0, usually that's a safe enough lead, the Giants start creeping back. They put up 2 runs in the third, and then they tie it up in the bottom of the fourth. And all of a sudden, we're at a 5-5 game. And I'm thinking, how did we get to this point? We were rolling. But guess what? The Marlins continue to roll. In the 5th inning, top of the 5th, this is where things get really fun. You had a Eric Wagaman with a 2-run double. Connor Norby with an RBI double. That made it 8-5. How about Connor Norby starting to heat up? Eric Wagaman coming through in the clutch. I just love to see those guys heat up. Norby in particular, because again, he had a rough start to this season. His swing decisions were terrible. And that's something that he's going to continue to work on and get better. But Norby had himself, a really nice RBI hit. He had an RBI in last night's game as well. Marlins are up 8-5, and from there it was just on. They put up 4 runs in the top of the 8th, tack on some insurance, which you love to see because no lead is safe. We're Marlins fans. We found that out a lot of times. Xavier Edwards hit a double. That was a 2-run double. Otto Lopez, another RBI single. And then Augustine Ramirez closes the scoring with a single, an RBI single. He finished a triple short of the cycle. Another multi-hit game for Augustine Ramirez. Another multi-extra base hit game. I was listening to the radio broadcast, because I was driving, and the only Marlins player through 55 games to start his career with more multi-extra base hit games is Giancarlo Stanton. That is the type of slug that Augustine Ramirez provides to a lineup. And it's a lineup in which, quietly, this took me by surprise, the Marlins are leading the National League in hits and batting average. I just think that's incredible. I actually might be mistaken here, guys. It might be all of baseball. I got to make sure on this, because they're having a June in which, like I said, they're swinging the bats well, and that's something that I always want to see, because the offense has been so slow at times, and it feels like they can't really get into a groove. But when you're making things happen on the bases, and then you come through with 2 outs, you come through with runners in scoring position, and then you add a little bit of slug, that's what's gonna win you games. That's what's gonna get you series sweeps, like it did against the Giants. The Giants are a really good team. They're not a bad team at all. And yes, it is the National League. I was just making sure. But I mean, the Marlins outclassed San Francisco in this one. They're sitting at 34-45. They're having a nice month of June. They won 2 out of 3 from Atlanta. They sweep San Francisco. All of a sudden, this team is competing. And they're not just competing. They're not just playing late into ball games and dropping close ones. They're winning these games. I'm just all here for it. I love the offensive explosion that I'm seeing. Guys just, seeing their pitch and doing damage with it. The Marlins don't really have a ton of, stars in their lineup, name-worthy guys that the average baseball fan knows, and it doesn't matter because they have an opportunity and they're making the most of their opportunity, much like Heriberto Hernandez from that game too. All Heriberto Hernandez has done since he's got called up by the Marlins is just hit. This dude just flat out hits, and I love it. Coming through in the clutch, Era Clutch Hernandez, Hemiberto Hernandez. Like, that's what it's about. That is what it's about, making the most of your opportunity. I got a question about the pitching staff. It's a pretty good one from William Corpus. He's an everyday listener, and he pretty much asked me about the pitching staff if certain guys start to get traded. Because at the end of the day, guys, you still got to field a team. You still got to go out there and compete. And so what if certain guys get traded? How are the Marlins going to handle the rotation post-deadline? I'm going to preview that and answer William's question right after this. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it that much more thrilling by going to FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your other friends are getting sunburnt or swimming or doing whatever on the beach. FanDuel's got you. You can track your favorite matchups, and the app is going to keep it fresh with daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, it's fast payouts, and it makes those regular season games feel like a playoff atmosphere because you got money at stake, and it's a really fun event. Whether you're placing a same game parlay or you're watching a bet right into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. A reminder, hit subscribe on that YouTube channel, and Locked On Marlins is really wherever you get your podcasts, all the streaming platforms. So share the podcast. Let's grow this Locked On Marlins community together as the season continues. William Corpus hit me up via X. A reminder, you guys can do that as well. There's always a way. My DMs are open. You can tag me, hit me up with questions, and I'll answer them on the show. He said, hey, Jeremiah, I know there's a lot of talk about Eddie and Sandy getting dealt, but what about Quantrill as he's on a one-year deal? Could all three be traded, or is that too much for the current rotation to handle? So Sandy Alcantara, obviously, his name is being thrown out in trade rumors. If he continues to pitch well, there's a good chance he gets dealt. Edward Cabrera, very much the same way. Cal Quantrill is on a one-year deal, $3.5 million. It's real cheap, but he's a rental. I mean, the Marlins could keep him the rest of the season for stability, but he's going to be gone after this year. Miami's not going to sign him to a multi-year deal. So if the opportunity arises, I think you try to trade him and take a flyer on a prospect or two and see what happens. It's a really good point that William makes, though. Could this be too much for the rotation, assuming Sandy's gone, Eddie's gone, and possibly Cal Quantrill? Well, who do you really have left? Let's see. Ryan Weathers is on the injured list. Braxton Garrett's out for the year. Haven't said his name in a while. Max Meyer's done for the season. The rotation is thin up front. There's no doubt about that. It would probably require Adam Major getting recalled from AAA. Jansen Junk stays in the rotation. Yuri Perez, obviously, he's going to go the rest of the way, and he'll be one of the most important pitchers, and really somebody that they got to lean on if Quantrill and Eddie and Sandy get traded. And that's kind of it for the rotation as it stands right now. I think Valente Belloso would slide back into the rotation. And then does someone like Freddie Tarnuk make a start, slide into the rotation and eat some innings? He has starters experience. It would be decimated if all three of those guys gets traded. We throw these rumors out there. Oh, Sandy could go to the Cubs. Sandy could go to, the Dodgers. Where's Edward Cabrera going to go? But that's a really good point William makes. Major, Belloso, Freddie Tarnuk. Do you call someone else up from AAA, AA? Do you accelerate Robbie Snelling and bring him up to the major leagues in September to see what he's got? Like, it's not an easy answer, but I don't think that should keep you from dealing Quantrill's money off the books and taking on a prospect or two. If you get the chance, if somebody's willing to, give up a low-level prospect for Cal Quantrill and throw him in the back end of their rotation or as a long reliever, you'll probably take that because it's real cheap and you're not going to keep him past this season. But that veteran presence certainly would be gone. Major's a rookie. Jansen Junks, he's hardly pitched. You have Valente Belloso, he's kind of the veteran of this group, I guess. Like he's made a handful of starts now, dating back to last season. Yuri Perez, He's very young, 22 years old, but he's going to have to take a step forward as being a leader in this rotation. If I had to guess, I think it could happen. I would put it right now. Let's see. Sandy getting traded, I think, is a 65-35 split. I think Edward Cabrera getting traded right now is a 70-30. I think he's done enough. I think he's going to be appealing to a lot of teams at the deadline. And Peter Bendix is going to, he knows he has to continue this rebuild and continue this influx of talent into the minor league system and ultimately to build a competitive team. And that would require an Edward Cabrera trade. That's another bonus if you can deal Edward Cabrera. Why wouldn't you deal him? Because he's hitting his arbitration years. You wouldn't bank on him being here and being a core part of the next competitive Marlins team. It's just how it is. Cal Quantrill, if you can, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Josh Bell in the sense that Bell was tradable. They traded him to the Diamondbacks, but they got cash considerations. And last time I checked, I can't find cash considerations baseball reference page anywhere. So if you can, hit me up, but I'm still waiting. I don't know what position he plays. I'm just messing around. But that's kind of how I look at Quantrill's level. A rental whose minimal value at the worst case scenario, you get cash considerations, or a player to be named later. Maybe it turns out, maybe you take a flyer like Colby Martin, who the Marlins just acquired from the Blue Jays. But it's a good topic to think about, because I do think Major at post deadline is going to get a lot of experience, and the Marlins are really going to find out what they have in him as a pitcher. He made one start and got immediately sent back down, and I don't like seeing that from somebody who, is in your system. He's in AAA. He's major league ready by all accounts, and he doesn't have the opening or the opportunity to make it happen. Another name I would have thrown out there before he got traded would have been Robinson Pena. If Robinson Pena was still around and the Marlins deal Quantrill, Cabrera, and Sandy, then maybe Pena slides into your rotation and eats up some innings. But look, the Marlins are sitting at 34-45. Realistically, they're going to be sellers at the deadline. They're going to sell their bullpen. I expect Bender to be gone. I was going to say Fauché. He'd been pitching really well as of late. But, after this last blow up, I don't know how teams are going to react to that. There's going to be some surprising trades. I just feel it. And I love trade season. I love when the Marlins are the ones buying at the deadline. You remember the Josh Bell, Jake Berger deal from Kim Ng? That was awesome. Marlins go out, they make a move, and it pushes them into the playoffs. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case this season. They are going to trade away guys. I don't think there's really anyone on the offensive side of the ball in the lineup who the Marlins are looking to trade or to field serious offers. You're not going to trade away Norby or Augustine or Stowers. Dane Myers is a bit of a wild card, given that he's about 30 years old and he has a lot of team control left, and he's hitting over 300 on the season. But I don't think you sell on Dane Myers. You shouldn't, at least. Jesus Sanchez, that's who I'm thinking. I don't know why I missed that. Jesus Sanchez, I expect to get traded. You're probably not going to trade a third of the roster like you did last season, but it's going to surprise a lot of people how many players get dealt. And it's just the nature of the game. It's not a matter of, selling to sell because you're losing. Well, let's just trade. Let's just keep rebuilding. I think you need to. I think you need to make these moves to continue getting waves of talent into the system. As we've seen before, this past series, the Marlins swept the Giants. They're young. They're hungry. They can compete. but it's going to take more to put them over the edge. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. I appreciate you all for listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.